A new test article at Massey's, the parking garage at Sanchez nearing completion, concreting of some floors of the new office building at the build site, and groundwork for the new OLM commences at the launch site. Hey everyone, welcome on board to RGV Aerial Photography's Starbase Flyover Review episode 44. I'm Jeff A, and I'll be your guide for today. We'll be covering updates at SpaceX's Starbase facilities, cruising at an altitude of 10,500 feet. These photos were taken on May 31st, with some additional ground shots on the 1st of June. The flyover begins at the Massey's test site, then moves on to Sanchez, the build site, and our final destination being the launch site. So fasten your seatbelts and enjoy the flight. First, off to Massey's. Here's a map to get you orientated. Beginning at the Mexican site opposite Massey's, we can see a square of land has been outlined for potential development. Could this be some kind of exclusion zone for static fires? More concrete near the flame stack and along the rear completes this corner of the site. Moving to the structural area, we can see the second level of the new structural test stand has been stacked on the first and the third level under construction just above. Parts for the next level can be seen nearby. The two mystery hydraulic articles have been moved to this area, though it's not clear what they are for or where they'll go. Nearby is the news test article, B14.1, which arrived on the 30th of June from the production site. This is made up of a common dome and a forward section including a forward dome and lifting points. The latter is of the most interest because they are not usually needed or installed on test articles. During our recent show and tell, one of the supporters of the RGV channel managed to piece this puzzle together. Looking first at the can crusher cap, we can see a unique bracket off to the side and an accumulator mounted above. Over on the top of B14.1 are these landing pads and sensors on the lift point. Putting this all together, the purpose of this test article is to test the load points, possibly for booster catching stresses. The can crusher cap will be placed on top of the article and hydraulic rams will pull up on the load points. To replicate flight conditions, B14.1 will be pressurized via a high-pressure gaseous nitrogen line running from the nearby tank farm. Moving up, drilling has commenced for foundations for additional liquid oxygen tanks. Some of the piles can be seen on the far pad. Finally, on Monday 3rd of June, Ship 26 conducted a 6-engine static fire over the newly completed flame trench. It signals the beginning of static fire operations at the site. Thank you to Rocket Ranch for providing this footage. That's all for Massey's, on to Sanchez. Here's a map to help you find your way around this site. Let's start our tour around Sanchez at the ground fabrication building, where all the pipework for Orbital Pad B Tower and Ground Zero hardware is being prefabricated. Piles and fittings can be seen staged neatly on racks to the rear. Tower sections 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 and 9 are all positioned now with pipes and other materials staged next to them for crews to get started with their fit-outs. Also, preparations are underway to receive sections 4 and 5, the last missing segments to arrive from the Cape, where those sections including the chopsticks carriage and the arms are staged to be loaded onto a barge. Over at the stand construction area, work seems to be slowly continuing with the third booster transport stand, as seen in this ground image. The mystery black rectangle has been painted around its edges. Over at the Commodities farm, a new vaporizer has arrived, and the excavated areas behind Megabay 1 and the High Bay have been backfilled. Booster 4's remaining aft section was moved away from the rocket garden and into the scrapyard area. New parking spaces were designated at the site's perimeter, most likely a temporary solution at the ongoing parking problem at Starbase, which should be solved with the new almost completed 6th-floor parking garage. Wrapping up Sanchez, let's look at this excellent ground photo showing ships 32 and 20 at the rocket garden, with the parking garage in the foreground. Here we are at the build site, where we'll take a look at progress towards making the estimated 1 million square foot facility ready for Starship production. Here's a map to get your bearings. Let's first take a look at the massive footprint of Star Factory in the build site, with the bays to the left. Starting with Megabay 2, the major change this week is the addition of permanent work access platforms in the rear of the building. Similar to the scaffolding before it, this will give workers access to maintain and repair the ship's heat shield without using the telescopic lifts we see all around Starbase. In this aerial photo, we get a great view of all 3 ship work stands. The 2 stands to the left have not yet received the raised work platform that allow crew to access the power heads of the Raptor engines. as seen in this ground photo of the centre stand. Over at Mega Bay 1, fully stacked boosters 12, 13 and 14 are being worked on ahead of their cryogenic tests for B14 or static fire test campaigns in the case of B12 and B13. Booster 14.1 meanwhile had exited the bay on May 30th and rolled down Highway 4 to Massey's. In front of the Mega Bay sits the common dome section of Booster 15, which at the time of the flyover was the only section of Booster 15 on site. However, on June 3rd, Labpadre saw an aft section for the LOX tank of B-15 exit Star Factory on the northern side and rolled down Highway 4, joining the common dome section in front of Mega Bay 1. On the high bay side of things, ships 30 and 31 remain in the bay, with the raceway jig missing since last week's flyover, indicating that S31 is under repair. Now taking a look at this angled shot of the exit of Star Factory's nose cone hallway at its tallest section, we see the long-awaited concrete has been poured all the way to the exit. This is a promising sign that we can expect taller Block 2 ship and booster segments to exit the factory soon, especially since the northernmost sections have been in production for a few months now. Over at the shorter exit, we can see that not all of the floor space has been poured with concrete yet. Both exits are also missing doors. Work on the drainage pipes continues on the west-facing wall and just behind Tent 4. The two grey tanks formerly seen at the Highway 4 storage site have been installed by the White Building along with some chilling units. This will also be used to keep equipment cooled. We're not sure what this building will be used for. Over at the office end of the factory, we can see progress on new footings discussed in recent updates. As we take a look at the office building, the final wing is nearing completion, with it seeming likely to be only 3 levels tall. Looking at the floor of level 2, we can see that concrete has been poured in the middle section. Ship 33's common dome was seen in the new ring yard at the back of the Star Factory in this ground shot. It's not yet confirmed whether S33 will have its parts reused for future ships, since the majority of the ship's parts were scrapped. Although this article was not present at the time of the flyover, we did notice an E-dome with a smiley face cut out into it. Go ahead and let us know what you think it might be for. We can see right through the front alleyway in the Star Factory with this awesome ground photo. Lastly, going to the crane yard, designer chairs for the office building have been staged here, along with other miscellaneous office equipment. That's all from the build site, so let's take a look at the launch site. Let's thank Procky for this updated map as construction transforms the launch site. As always, we'll begin at the former suborbital site where construction progress continues at Orbital Pad B. We start with this wide shot that shows the Gateway to Mars sign being removed. This ground photo from June 1st shows additional letters removed and stacked on the trailer to the right. Along the property line, the launch site LR11000 has been lowered in preparation for IFT-4. Looking at the tower foundation, preparation of the piles was completed with an elaborate rebar cage taking shape. Through the gaps we can see they poured a layer of concrete under the rebar, referred to as a rat pad or blinding layer, to make it easier to work. To the right in this image, formwork is already being placed as crews continue to work on the rebar. Looking at the previous photo, you can get a sense of how deep this pile cap will be, as the forms are taller than the workers here in the right corner. To the south of the tower foundation, we can see the CFA drill rig is continuing to install piles. Directly in front, it appears a pile was just completed with a few planks possibly holding the rebar cage in place as the concrete cures. This location in relation to the tower is a likely option to where the OLM will be located. On the other side of the tower, some additional dirt work is underway. While we can't see much evidence of it, the CFA rig was working in this area earlier in the week, so there are likely some buried piles curing. Zooming in, it appears this circle is about the correct size to be a pile location that is curing. Moving over to the orbital tank farm, a new development has appeared. Marked out in the concrete we see 2 orange outlines that appear to be another expansion of the horizontal tank farm. An excavator fitted with a hammer attachment can be seen breaking up concrete where footings for 2 more tanks seem likely. Also seen here is another of the heavy-duty pipe racks for extending the pipework for these tanks. Within the disappearing vertical tank farm, we see both nitrogen tank shell rings from last week's flyover have been removed. Cleanup of the concrete base of the first 2 LN2 tanks seem to be wrapping up, with the internal pedestal for the second nitrogen tank remaining in place. likely waiting until IFT-4 to be removed. This week we saw that the vaporizer that stood between the nitrogen tanks has been removed, leaving only the fan unit that it sat on in place. Additional pump assemblies in this area were also hoisted out of the farm. Moving to the OLM, the pad is clearing out, with a few lifts in this area. After FTS chargers were installed in both vehicles on May 30th, Ship 29 was moved between the chopsticks. June 1st would see the return of the mighty full stack. In this final photo for this week's tour, we can see 2 of the 3 tiles that had not been repaired as of June 1st. With Elon stating that surviving max heating is a high priority for this flight, another D-stack is likely prior to flight. With no test enclosures posted and IFT-4 imminent, speculation for the weekend stack may be related to some kind of photo op. And that's it for episode 44 of Starbase Flyover Review. Thank you for choosing to fly with RGV aerial photography, and I hope you all enjoyed the flight. If you liked what you saw today, please subscribe for more episodes and content so you don't miss out on the new videos each week. And also leave a thumbs up. To receive the latest images and to join in the conversation on the day they are taken, please consider joining RGV's Patreon. I'm Jeff A, and I'll see you next week from 10,500 feet. That's all for now.